Here's Papa.
Hello, 45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel. And today, for future clarification, this video is being recorded during the great 2020 Mexican beer pandemic. You know which one I'm talking about. Or, as others may call it, the quest for Charmin. Anyway, since we all seem to be using, to different degrees, our free sample of socialism, I thought this would be a great time to go over a classic communist rifle. Now what we have here is a variant of the classic Russian Mosin M44, produced by an Eastern Bloc country forced into communism after World War II, and that would be Poland. Now this was built in the famed Circle 11 plant in Radom, Poland. The Polish M44, aka the wz44, was built on what is believed to be machinery from the Russians. Now the Russians stopped making these rifles right around 1949, and many satellite countries suddenly started producing these variants of these rifles in the early 50s. Which suggests that the Russians were moving some machinery around. China came out with the Type 53, along with Hungary, Romania, and Poland, all producing copies. I find this rifle to be a little bit of an oddball for the Circle 11 plant to be producing, considering the other guns that they were manufacturing at the time. For example, the PPSH 41. They produced those from 1951 to 1953. That was a select fire 7.62x25 pistol caliber carbine. Or they were also producing the PPS 43 and the PPS 4352 from 1951 until 1955. Another 7.62x25 submachine gun. Also coming down the line was the DP-28 or the DPM, 1952 to 55, and that was a 7.62x54R machine gun. Another one that they were producing at the time, and it makes sense because this one's chambered in 7.62x25 and matched the pistol caliber carbine and the submachine gun they were using, was a copy of the Russian TT pistol, the Tokarev. And as I said, being similar ammo to the pistol caliber carbine and submachine gun, it kind of made sense that they were making a copy of this. And then between 1951 and 1955, they were producing these M44s, based on a 60-year-old design at the time. Just kind of out of left field for what else they happened to be producing at the time. Now they did also make a wz44, which was a 22 trainer based off this rifle using a Mauser bolt, and they made those into the early 60s. Now there's a little bit of controversy as to whether they stopped making these in 55. There's one source out there says they made them into the 60s. However, I think the wz48 is what they were talking about into the 60s, because I believe the 7.62x54R versions of these were discontinued in 1955. Now this one is what I would call an as-turned-in rifle. The exposed bluing is almost all gone. It's 1952 production with the early stock. The serial number on the buttstock, butt plate, and the receiver both match, so that tells me that this stock and this receiver have probably been together since 1952. However, the bolt is a non-matching bolt, and the floor plate is a non-matching floor plate on the magazine. And that would be very common with issued weapons. A lot of times, 5 or 10 guys might get together to clean their weapons, take the bolts out, take the floor plates out, have somebody clean those while they clean the rest of the rifle. And then when they put them back together, they just kind of put them back together willy-nilly and weren't really worried about whether things matched or not. That's the beauty of the Mosin Nagant, is that the tolerances are such that it usually doesn't make much difference if you swap bolt handles and stuff around. You can also tell that this is a early gun because you don't have the brass pieces around the sling slots as you would find in the later models. Now, what were the Polish using these for? You can see from this rifle that they were using them. This one is very, very worn. Yeah, like I said, the bluing is worn almost off unless you get up underneath the stock. Then the bluing is perfect. Obviously, this rifle had been out in the field being used. Now, there's a lot of things that people assume that they were being used for. One of those uses would have been a training rifle. This would be a decent platform to train on. There's also some unconfirmed sources that say the police were using them in various roles: crowd control, riot control, and other various roles that they may need a rifle in. You probably also would find these at small guard stations or small outposts where threat of invasion was not very likely. Kind of behind the lines, maybe some guard stations along the border with Russia. Russia was who controlled Poland at the time, so you really didn't need a submachine gun along those borders. Or if you're up in the mountains at some kind of a small outpost and you're more concerned with four-legged critters coming there and disrupting you, this would make a great little hunting rifle, or take care of any large critters that decided they wanted you to become lunch. Anyway, they were using these. Now, the Polish variant is considered by many to be the top dog of the M44 rifles. Poland was in no rush to build these. There was no impending war coming or looming. You had the Cold War going on. They had very skilled artisans, so these are very well put together Mosin Nagants, and they had time to smooth out the actions and polish them properly. They weren't just trying to force them out the door. So the M44 from the Polish M44s are considered a great and desirable variant of the M44. Now I'm going to stir up a little controversy here, because you will find these in what I say 3 different conditions. You're going to find them as turned in like this rifle here, with a lot of bluing wear, a lot of character, a lot of field scars from being out in the field. And then you're going to find what many consider to be mint condition. And the mint condition ones are the ones you need to be really careful of if you're looking to buy a Polish M44. Because a lot of dealers will call those mint condition rifles as unissued. And that is, for the most part, a fallacy. The only way I would even consider the rifle to be an unissued rifle is if all the serial numbers match. Everything, the bolt, the receiver, the butt plate, the magazine floor plate, everything on it matches. No counter bore in the barrel. And the reason I say that is that Poland, back in the 60s and 70s, were known to take these back in as turned in condition like this one and rework them. And they'd put them through the arsenal and re-arsenal them. And they would take their time and do it correctly. Things would come apart. Everything would be re-blued to immaculate. They would restock them if need be. You'll find these in a dark stock and a light colored stock. Sometimes you find those where the bore has been counterbored so that the muzzle, they get back to good rifling so the rifle shoots well again. And those mint condition ones, if there is a serial number on them that does not match, chances are it is a arsenal refinish. And they were Polish. The Polish workers in Poland was very, very good at refinishing these rifles. Now, these are a wonderful rifle to shoot. They kick like a mule, but they're fun to shoot. You've got this pointed bayonet here. And it's in that classic Russian star shape. Now they made them that way because these are more of a pokey, stabby, stabby bayonet than a slashy, slashy bayonet. And when these were invented back in the 1800s, this style of bayonet, when poked, was harder to sew up and harder for soldiers to recover from than, say, a slashing cut. Those were a little easier to repair. This stabby was a little bit harder to repair. Now, with modern techniques and modern medical, that's not nearly as it was, but that was one of the reasons they went with these pointy little bayonets. And you had a little bayonet on a carbine. You wanted the carbine to be short and handy, but if need be, they wanted them to have a bayonet to do some pokey, stabby. Now, I have noticed on this rifle, and it has been noted by other people who have shot the M44, is there is a point of aim shift between the bayonet being in the closed position or folded position and the bayonet being in the open or out position. And I have found that to be true. With this rifle at 50 yards, there's about a 4-inch shift left and right of point of impact on my bullets. I believe, if I remember right, when the bayonet is out like this, I was shooting about 2 inches left of center. When I brought the bayonet in, it's kind of hard to do here. There we go. When you're trying to film and hold it. When you brought the bayonet in, I was shooting 2 inches right of center. So there's definitely a little bit of a point of aim shift when you have the bayonet in or out. With that kind of shift that I'm seeing, I'm wondering if this wasn't zeroed in without the bayonet on it. These are also, considered to be very smooth actions. They were really, for a Mosin Nagant, and the action on this is really smooth. Aims and points naturally. As with all Mosins, that bolt is so far forward, you really need to change your grip in order to manipulate it. That's just a product of as old of this design of this rifle. As designs got better, they started moving the bolts back further to make them easier to manipulate while still having it shouldered. But anyway, this is 45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel. And this is my 1952 Polish M44. Now, with the bayonet out, I feel like going and poking and stabby thingies. Hey, Mr. Smiles, why don't you stand over here for a second?
Damn it! Ow! Knock it off.
And I'm out.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.
Nice to be able to shoot this without putting my face in Cosmo. Got most of it out. I got a little bit bleeding through, but very little. Trigger, nice. No stacking, just a nice steady pull. Clean, and brake is extremely clean.